Hello and welcome to Soul Whisperings Vlog. I'm Monica, owner of Intuitive Wellness and author of All the Dimes from Heaven books, all three. And today we have a special guest with us, and I am so excited to have her. And hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I want to pronounce your name right. I've been in several Zoom meetings with you, and people say it two different ways. Can you
They
pronounce
do.
your name for us?
It's Tenya.
Tenya. Okay.
Tenya Eickenberg. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. I was going to say, well, we have this guest here. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask her which name. Because some people call you Tenya and some people call you Tenya. And I'm
Yep.
like, which
Yep.
one is it? So it's
Yep.
wonderful to
It
have
is
you.
Tenya. Yes. Thank you.
So, you are a certified life, energy, and self care coach whose passion is to help women release their emotional baggage and direct their energies toward efforts to heal and regain strength, freedom, and happiness. Your unique approach to healing, to energy healing, is an alternative method that deviates from conventional medicine or talk therapy and instead encourages individuals to nurture positive energy for healing to take place. Tenia's decision to enter this profession stems from your long-term fight against depression and anxiety. I can so relate to those, which made you look for other ways of healing apart from traditional treatment methods. I feel like this pull of like energy healing versus a pill to fix me, right?
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
you discovered that energy healing is an effective technique for regaining one's health after realizing that it brought about positive changes that medication and therapy could not achieve. Energy healing is widely used and recommended as a reliable healing method of releasing tension and getting oneself back to a more positive and fulfilling life. Thank you for being here. So tell us a little bit about your journey to this where you are now.
Wow. So when I look back, when people ask me this question, it's like the first thing I go to is when I started with energy healing. And that's not where my story actually started. My story started when I was a child. I grew up in a home that was very emotionally chaotic. There was a lot of ramped up emotions, yelling, crying, um, placing blame. But there was, my parents, and there were four siblings, and we were just kind of thrown into this chaotic life. And very early on, I learned to walk on eggshells and not make waves and hold back my own emotions. And sometimes when those emotions were too much, I would, blurt things out, and that would cause more tension or whatever. And most of the time we contribute those kinds of things to, oh, they're just being a teenager, oh, or they're just being a kid, they're being rebellious. But it was more for me, it was more about holding in all of these emotions that I wasn't allowed or didn't feel safe to express. And they would just come out, and they came out in ways that were rebellious or, um, uh, triggering for my parents. Um, it was just very, very uh, chaotic is the only thing that comes to mind. Um, but through my teenage years, going into adulthood, um, I met my husband, and I found a solace, a safe place with him where I was able to maybe explore a little more about how I was feeling, and I could express my feelings a little bit more because he made it safe for me to do that. But I still had that connection with my parents. And oftentimes I would start to express my emotions, and it would just instantly, I would like shut down. And I would do this. It was just like a loop. It would just go over and over and over. And in 2018, we was a big year for us, and our twins graduated high school. We got the opportunity to move to our dream community and our dream home. My husband graduated college. My oldest was going to graduate college. It was just a big year.
Yep.
And we got to our community, and I had all these thoughts of what my life was going to look like once we moved here. And by the following summer, it didn't look like that because we moved in the winter. So by summer, when we were hanging out on the beach and stuff like that, it did not look how I thought it was going to look. And that triggered my depression and my anxiety to get ramped up. And I would push it down, and I would push it away, and I would ignore it, and I would drink through it, and I would smoke through it, and I would eat through it. And it got to the point where I was like, you know what? I need help. I need to talk to someone. I need be put on something, because it got to the point where I would think, well, you know, maybe I'll just run into that light pole up there just so I can have some time off to think. It wasn't about killing myself or really hurting myself. It was more of just, I just need some time alone to think. And it was easier to think of crashing the car and being sent to the hospital for a couple of days versus asking for a couple of days from my family to be alone and figure things out. And that was the turning point. I was like, I need help. So I went the traditional routes, because at that time, that's all I knew.
Yeah.
So I called a therapist, and this was during COVID shutdown. So it wasn't going in to see anybody. This was all virtual. So met with a therapist who, based off of her profile from my insurance company, looked like, maybe she'll work for me. Got an appointment, a teleappointment with a doctor that I had never met. The conversation was about 15 minutes. Once he found out that I was feeling depressed and I had, was feeling like these panic attacks coming on. I had been on medication before. He was like, okay, well, what medication were you on before? So I told him. He goes, okay, we'll try that. And it was like a 15-minute conversation. And of course, he asked, do you feel like you're going to hurt yourself? And of course I said no, because no one's really wants to admit that, especially to a medical person. And so I got on the medication, started talk therapy, and he's like, I'll see you in 6 to 8 weeks. Bye. Okay. So 6 to 8 weeks go by. I'm seeing my therapist weekly by the time we get to talking, it's about a half hour a week. Get to the appointment to update my medication. And I'm like, maybe I feel a little bit better. I'm still crying a lot. Like, I'm not having as many panic attacks, but I'm still having them. And he was like, okay, well, why don't we up your medication? And I was like, okay. And at that point, sitting at my desk, crying my eyes out, I was like, I need something that's going to get rid of this. I don't want to survive with it anymore. I want to thrive. I want to enjoy life. I want to not just go with the motion, go through the motions. And so I looked up on Google holistic emotional healing, because I knew it was emotional, but I didn't know where it was coming from. And I found a modality called the emotion code. And I was a little skeptical. I was like, okay, so finding trapped emotions within my body and releasing them is going to help heal me. And at this point, I was not intuitive. I was not looking for signs from the universe. It was just, I was just looking for something to heal me. So I was like, let me try this. So I made an appointment with a practitioner. And after that appointment, I was like, I feel lighter. I don't feel a heaviness. Okay, well, let me see how I feel in a couple days. And a couple days later, it seemed like I felt like I did before, but there was just like the sharpness was taken off. It was still there, but like there wasn't that sharp anymore. And I was like, okay, let me try this again. And of course, all through this, I'm doing my research. I'm watching tons of videos on YouTube. Um, and so I do another session and I feel better after. I'm like, I think there's really something to this. So Motion Code was doing a webinar, and I was like, I'm going to sign up for the webinar so I can just really hear it from the horse's mouth what this is all about. By the end of the webinar, I was like, you know what? I'm signing up to get my certification to heal myself.
Mm.
I'm the type of person that if there's something that I want to dive into, that I'd rather get the certification and do it myself than so that I have an understanding of what it is that I'm doing, of what it is that I'm experiencing or going through. So I got my certification, worked on friends and family for my certification, worked on myself, and then the body code, the second level of the emotion code. I was like, oh, well, if I'm going to do the emotion code, may as well do body code, right? And the body code went into more of your chakras and entities and toxins and all this other stuff. And so I got through that. And all this time, I'm feeling better and better and better. And I released my heart wall, which is just this energetic wall of emotions that you have up around your heart. And I removed that. And the next day when I woke up, I was just like in this euphoric feel. It's the only thing I could, it just felt euphoric. And my husband had even made the passing comment, like, are you high? I'm like, no, I've never felt this relaxed and this joyful. Like it wasn't like an excited joyful, but it was just like a sense of joy of where I was in that moment. And I was like, okay, people need to know about this. Like,
Mhm.
I never thought I would be doing this as a business, but like, it was probably at that point, it was like 5 months, 4 months. And I was like, I, I feel really good. Like, I felt about 80% of the anxiety and depression had been lifted.
And can I ask a question to back up? Did you
Yeah,
stop taking the medicine?
I did. Yes. Yeah, I
Okay,
stopped
so
taking the medicine.
you stopped taking the medicine, and
Yep.
then through this, like you were going through the training, right? It wasn't even
Yep.
like, appointments for you specifically with these people. Like you were just being trained, and through
Right.
the training, you were healing.
Yes. Yeah. Because people are a reflection of us, right? Their energy is a reflection of us. So every time I was working on somebody, I was releasing something from myself. May not have been specifically what I found in them, but I was releasing stuff from myself as well while I was helping them to heal. And I had stopped talk therapy as well because talk therapy was not getting to the root. All it kept doing was rehashing my relationship with my parents or with my siblings or with my husband. It had nothing really to do with healing the anxiety and depression. It was more like a pill. And I think talk therapy has its place, and I think medication has its place, but it did not have a place for me at that time. At that time, all it kept doing was just rehashing the stuff that I did not need to keep talking about.
So I guide a lot of people away from talk therapy, and I agree with you that sometimes maybe you do need to like share it with somebody. But the problem with talk therapy that I have found is that mind body connection. And so your mind is rehashing all of these things, right? And your body thinks it's happening again to
Exactly.
you right now. And
Yeah.
so, like you said, going to talk about, my childhood or whatever, or, my relationships or whatever's going wrong, my job or whatever, it's when you sit there and hash it over the past, right? Your body just tunes in and says, "Oh, we're in stress mode again. We better watch out." So we're going back there. And so like I like to just talk about that's what's actually happening. It's the same thing like when we're watching the news. Our body thinks it's happening to us, right? And so
Right.
that's the same thing. Um, I want to go back a little bit. I love your story, by the way. You mentioned a couple of key points that I think people could probably relate to your story about, like I've got this energy inside of me and it has nowhere to go, right? Like those panic attacks. You mentioned about things not going the way you thought that they were, and that's like a sense of control, right? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
our bodies and minds are trying to control what's going to happen in our lives because it helps us feel safe, right? And it didn't go quite how you thought it was going to
Right.
go. And so then you get the spiraling mind, is what I heard, is just
Yeah.
spiraling and just nowhere to turn and nowhere to go. So we go to these health experts, right, who are trained in viewing the body as like a car. Like, I'm going to go get my oil change. You'll be all set. Okay, let's go, plug some more, a different gas. Let's put some different gas into your body. Let's put some of these pills into your
Mm-hmm.
body. It should help your car run better, right?
Right.
But to move towards that energy piece, this is what, like, I want to normalize this conversation that this thing that we're running here is a body, is a like a tool to live by, right? But it's filled with all this energy systems. And tell me a little bit about like your journey health wise. Like, how did it change your view or your perception of like food and different things along your journey?
Yeah. So as I've gone through the healing journey of anxiety and depression, um, I wanted to feel healthier physically, and it has taken quite some time to for me to clear enough of that energy away so that I could put my focus on my physical body. And trust me, there were so many societal programs that was like, oh, you're fat, you have to be skinny to be liked, all that kind of stuff that was still kind of stopping me from wanting to be healthy. And so I had to work on that portion as well that was far away from the anxiety and depression. And what I found when I started really focusing in on my health, I started with my organs first. I started with checking in with each of my organs, and I do this all through muscle testing. And it sometimes it comes intuitively, but I check to see how happy my organs are. How happy is my thyroid? How happy are my adrenals? And I would start working on how happy is my stomach? How happy are my intestines? And what I found was as I was healing those organs and clearing out the energy that was within them, I was starting to make better food choices. I came off gluten again. And this is all, honestly, all happened in like the last probably 8 months. So this is all like still very like exciting and new for me. Like I can, like, this is all happening because I'm doing the energetic work, and it's allowing me the space to do the actionable work or the conscious work. And so when you start to heal your organs, whether it's your adrenals, your kidneys, your gut, whatever, it starts to heal everything else around it as well. And when you have healthy organs, you can, there's so much more that you can do. There's so much more that your body can do when it can start to heal itself, because our bodies are meant to heal itself. I truly believe that that is what God intended, was that your body is capable of healing itself. Science isn't caught up to that yet because they haven't been able to come up with the processes to figure that out. But
Yeah. Two things that I just want to tune into. Like, we all just kind of take for granted our organs are doing their thing, right?
we
Out of
do.
sight, out of mind, right? Like,
Yep.
who thinks about like, oh, is my liver happy today or my kidney, until something goes wrong, and then they're like, oh my gosh, and then they go learn
Right.
all about the liver or kidney. But there's also that emotional attachment to those. Like, you know, recently I was struggling recovering from a cold, and I went in to see my acupuncturist, and she was like, "Oh, well, you're sad. Like, you've got some grief in there." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I just lost my brother." Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
my lungs have to have some extra attention right now, right?
Yep.
So tell us a little bit though about the gut brain connection. I am so excited for you to share a little bit about this because I just think people don't understand that our food choices are actually probably running our brain and
Yeah.
could be triggering some of those panic attacks. Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
into that
Yeah.
a little.
There are a ton of studies right now about how your gut is kind of like the second brain, right? Where I think the brain, I think it's your gut, your heart, and your head. I think that is our brain. I don't think it's just one organ. I think our brain is all of our organs working together. And when you start to heal your gut through food and through releasing emotional attachments and beliefs and all this other stuff that, inner child trauma, start to heal your gut through all of that, but you maintain it by eating food that your body wants, food that your body finds nourishing. And yes, it's a belief, but I have a belief that pretty much anything inside of your cabinet is not going to nourish your gut. Now, that is a belief of mine. Somebody else might have a belief that, say, Oreos is going to nourish their gut, and they very well may be able to stay healthy while eating Oreos. I can't. But when you start to heal your gut, your brain fog starts to lift. You get more clarity. Your vision can start to heal. Your immune system becomes so much stronger because it's not fighting off all of the bad bacteria and stuff that is in your gut. But everything moves through your gut. Everything. Everything moves through your kidneys. Everything moves through your liver. Your body doesn't say, okay, only you can go through my liver, only you can, but everything that you ingest. And by ingest, it's your food, your emotions, your traumas, other people's emotions, other people's traumas. You're ingesting all of that information and it goes through all of your organs. And so it's important to appreciate each of your organs. It's important to understand how important it is for each of your organs to work together in order to have that healthy body so it can heal itself.
Oh, I would want to go back to that. Thank you for reminding me. I was thinking about what you were saying about your body does want to heal naturally, right? And
It
we
does.
forget that we have this, miracle, right? And so like the comparison that I always give is, oh, you cut your finger? Are you worried about it's going to heal? No, everybody just puts a band-aid on it, right? And then another week or two, it's got a scab, there's new skin, and it's all gone.
Yep.
And so it's the same concept, except it's inside you and you can't quite see it, right? But nurturing that and taking care, it takes a little bit more effort, right? And I liked what you said about, food nourishing you. And so, like, I know that, and you said that it helped you with other things in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the thing that it helps me the most with is just understanding my intuition. So, what you were saying about your head, your heart, and your gut being really in line and in tune and connected. And so like if I have all those three kind of working together, then my intuition is better. And so like
Yeah.
I'm sure you see it in your work is that like I have to keep this tuned up in order to do my work
Yeah.
because if my intuition is off or I'm feeling agitated in some sort, then I can't help other people, right? And
Yep.
so like just understanding that when you do this work, it helps you show up to whatever work that you do in your life and also the people around you. It helps you feel better all around, right? So like,
It does.
and you also mentioned like social programming, like the magazines that we see at the store and the bikini complex syndrome and all that kind of stuff
Yep.
has like ruled our lives. and like I'm bad for eating this, I'm good for eating this, all those attachments and judgments to all the
Hmm.
food. And so when I was doing this, and I don't know if you felt this, like, oh my gosh, I feel really good. Am I supposed to feel that good? Like maybe I need, some carbs or something to like, oh, like,
Right.
settle, go back to that old feeling. And that new feeling though it's kind of discombobulating for me a
It
little
is.
bit. And I
Right.
don't know
And
if you
right.
went through this.
I did. And a lot of times my ego would jump in and say, oh, but you really love Reese's peanut butter cups. Do you really want to give those up? And it's like, no, I don't want to give them up. But when I eat, I can't eat just one. It's like a Lay's potato chip. I can't just eat one. If I got a bag of the miniatures, like I would plow through an entire bag.
Mm-hmm,
And that was not healthy.
mm-hmm,
That was not healthy for me. And so I had to there were just so many programs and beliefs around what I thought was healthy and what other people told me is healthy.
mm-hmm.
And this has really, I mean, and this has just been like in the last few months working with a personal trainer and having to put all my food into my fitness pal and track what I'm eating and make sure I'm eating all whole foods and stuff. But it really does, when you eat food that comes from Mother Earth versus the food that comes from man made, your body really does feel so much better. It really does. And I think I always knew that, but I didn't want to believe it because my ego was like, no, this is going to be really hard to do. So
Yeah, this
pay
is true.
attention to your ego as well, because your ego is not always your friend.
And that ego is that brain telling you different
Yep.
things, right? Um,
Yep.
oh boy, I just lost it. Hang on, let me just catch it. Oh, uh, so one of the things that I have been like learning myself, and I'm sure that you do, is that when I make those food choices, I am thinking about like my why, like why do I want to live, right? Because food is
Right.
life, and I also feel like, do I love myself enough? But then there's also
Exactly.
what you were just saying about the Reese's. I feel like there's a social pressure in America. Like, you go somewhere to go to the office or somewhere, and there's, Reese's Pieces everywhere and sugar everywhere. Like, sugar shouldn't be like in your daily life. It should be, maybe as a treat once in a while or
Right.
something.
Right.
So, like, two things: self love, and then, like, like, I feel like there's this sense of fitting in. Um,
Yes.
and I don't know if
Yes.
you relate to that.
Absolutely. I struggled with that. That is so funny that you say that because that was one of my biggest struggles with I had the fear of getting healthy. And the reason I had the fear of getting healthy was because I didn't feel like I would be included in the things that my friends were doing. And
Mm-hmm.
this is just, again, it's been a more recent thing because if as I'm doing this elimination diet to clear out and cleanse my body of the stuff that it does not like, I have to take my food with me or make prior arrangements if I'm going out to eat. Like, what is it that I can order? Call the restaurant and say, hey, can I order just a piece of salmon and steamed vegetables? That kind of thing. But having to clear that fear of getting healthy so that I could put my health first and say, you know what, I'm going to come over, but I'm going to bring my own food if that's okay. Because I don't want them to have to make adjustments for my eating habits.
I could totally relate to that. Like, I eat before I go so that I'm not
Yeah,
hungry when I'm there, and then I don't have to worry about the pressures of, looking at the buffet, and there's nothing
right.
there that I can eat, and then I'm hungry, and then I go eat something that I made a bad choice or not. I don't want to judge myself,
You
but
made
I
a
made a
different choice.
choice
Right. You
because
make
I
a
was
different
hungry.
choice. Yep.
Right,
Yep.
because I was so hungry. And so like I always feel like sometimes there's this pressure and then people are looking at you like, why don't you just eat normal? And I'm thinking, how has America normalized all of these bad habits
Right,
that are
right.
affecting the gut, that are then triggering a panic attack and anxiety? Like, how's that going for you? It's
Yep.
what I want to say to some people. So I love one of your comments that you put on your Google survey that I sent to you when we were talking about doing this interview. Do you want to share it or do you want me to?
Please go ahead. I like to hear it.
Then I want you to just talk a little bit more and then share with how do people work with you, how do people find you, and all those things. I just love this because it just means so much to me. And coming off that like social pressure conversation, right? So you love about your work is that you love to see how your clients transform into who they love instead of who they think other people will love. And that hit me and it was just, oh, tell me more.
Yeah. So when my clients find the love for themselves, they put the time and effort into making sure that they are where they need to be so that they can take care of others when they need to. They love themselves enough to continue doing their own energy work, continue doing their self care, continue setting boundaries and feeling their emotions and all the stuff. They love themselves enough to put themselves as a priority. And by putting themselves as a priority, they can become very strong, independent, and self-focused on their own health, their own well-being, so that they can be there for others. It's not about being selfish and taking things away from other people so that they can feel better, but it's knowing that when they wake up in the morning, that they're going to spend some time understanding what it is that they need, what is it that their body needs, so that they can be there for their children without any issue, be there for their spouse or their parents or their job, and not feel the pressure to people please or to conform. And that it's okay to be who they are, and that the new normal is being ourselves. It's not being, I don't want to say, the only thing that came to mind is like Stepford wife, is not being just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And you're the perfect model like of that, right? Like you've done the work, you
Yeah.
know how to do this because you did it yourself. Like that's what I love about this kind of work. So
Yeah.
how can people find you?
So you can find me on my website at designyourexistence.com. Design Your Existence on Instagram, Facebook. I don't think I have TikTok anymore. But yeah, Facebook, Instagram, and through my website.
Awesome. And what would it look like to work with you? Like what kinds of like offerings do you have?
So I have my Buddha Babe program, which is 12 energy healing sessions and then 12 sessions on different aspects of self-care that helped me to heal my anxiety and depression. And I did that within 6 months of starting to learn about energy healing. But you learn about meditation and boundaries and how your thoughts create things. There's a lot of different things that I teach in those other 12 sessions. I also do individual sessions, so you can do a package, you can do an individual session. I don't try to limit myself to just one thing, so I have quite a few different offerings.
That's awesome. Well, please reach out to Tenya because I'm telling you, it's going to be life changing. If you have anxiety or have like want to understand food or energy healing more deeply, I definitely highly recommend her. So thank you, Tenya, for being on my blog. This was such a fun conversation.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.